1972, a small group of Moorestown citizens, seeing the need for a community-based organization to address local environmental issues, formed Save the Environment of Moorestown, STEM. STEM tackled high-profile concerns of the day, such as water and air pollution, solid waste disposal, and recycling. Anticipating Moorestown's tremendous future growth and increased development, STEM volunteers played a pivotal role in initiating open space planning and in promoting protection of the environment, especially in ecologically sensitive areas. 40 years later, STEM continues to serve the community by preserving, protecting, and enhancing its natural environments, and by affording volunteers the opportunity to share their enthusiasm and expertise through its many diverse activities. Over the past 4 decades, STEM has undertaken a wide range of ambitious projects to preserve, protect, and maintain the health of Moorestown's open space and farmland, including the development of a natural resources inventory, the preparation of an open space inventory, and the establishment of the Natural Area Care Program. STEM's cooperative efforts with local, county, and state bodies have led directly to the preservation of over 275 acres of land within Moorestown. Such partnering with government committees, land trusts, local watershed associations, and like-minded area groups is central to STEM's philosophy. By reaching out to existing organizations and area volunteers, STEM looks to achieve shared objectives and to educate itself, local landowners, and the community at large about the broader impact of ecological change. Today, STEM responds to environmental challenges with a broad range of activities: community events, conservation projects, education programs, topical research, government advocacy, and cooperative ventures. Locally based and globally minded, STEM works to raise awareness about ecological issues and land stewardship while encouraging residents to enjoy our township's natural treasures. This is a virtual tour of some of those open space treasures. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Jean Fox, and I am a co-site leader of Wigmore Acres. And Wigmore stands at the corner of Westfield Avenue and Bridgeboro Road, opposite Flying Feathers Farm. Wigmore was a nursery site many years ago, and I am standing on the spot that the house was. Over to my right was where they held all their nursery material to sell, and over onto my left, where it's now woods, there's a creek that runs on that side of the property. Wigmore is about 12 acres. It was purchased back in 2001 between a co-op of our township, Burlington County, and the Green Acres Act for a price of $450,000. Wigmore is divided into 3 areas. We have the pinelands over on that side, the meadow that we're standing in front of, and on this side our creek.
Outlined in red, and there's a blue line.
Here.
Blue line goes through, indicates the tributary to Swede Run. On this map you can see this is an old map, so you can see a picture of the house.
This is the house.
This is the house, which has been demolished since then. And actually a lot of the meadow has grown up, and Jean will point out where the butterfly garden is.
The butterfly garden would sit right around in here, and this is our pinelands where they had their pines planted in a row. And over here is the uncleared area of woods that we are trying to put a trail into. He raised money for the fence for the butterfly garden by selling these posts that people painted. They bought the post for $5 and they painted and made their own artwork around the post. butterfly garden. As you can see, it's March. Not too much is up, and it's still a little bit needs some love. But hopefully in the spring we'll see our perennials pop up, and every perennial that we planted attracts different types of butterflies to the area. We needed to fence it so that the deer did not eat the plants. Is another meadow that we're going to let go natural. We're looking at the view of the creek that runs through the property of Wigmore. We try to keep it clean so it keeps flowing.
We're visiting Little Woods on the Rancocas Creek today. It's directly across from the end of Laurel Creek Boulevard on Creek Road. This open space map of Moorestown, you can see that the east end is over here by my index finger, and the little dark space there is Little Woods on the Rancocas. That eastern boundary is the Rancocas Creek, and that line that's parallel to it is Creek Road. So you see that 11-acre property extends from Creek Road to the creek. Entry to the trail itself is, or access to the trail is from Creek Road next to the township composting facility. So as we go along, it's a little confusing at first, but then we get to the wonderful trail that you'll see. We have some red stakes. Just follow the red stakes. Because this is adjacent to the township functioning composting facility, there are often disturbances to the entryway. But once we get into the trail, you'll see the beautiful woods. The trail is pretty easy to follow, even if you're here at the end of a long winter as we are now. The trail's marked with little pieces of aluminum and also logs along the trails to mark it, so it's easy to follow.
Go.
The woods that we see here, the steep woods, are unique for Moorestown. This is a beautiful beech woods that surprises people who have never been here. And for years, there was no public access to the Rancocas Creek. Here we are able to actually come out, the public is able to come out and see it. It's kind of a quirky way that this ever happened, and that is because of a byproduct of the Laurel Creek development. When the foursome planned to build the houses, and actually they had planned to build office buildings too, over in the Laurel Creek area where the old gravel pit was and there were farms. They needed to have a sewage treatment plant to serve it because the township couldn't provide it. So they purchased this property. This property had been owned by Silas Little. He was a forester who worked for the U.S. Forest Service at the forestry station down in what was then Lebanon State Park. It is now Brendan Byrne. So anyhow, he lived here and he owned the house on the other side of this creek, which we call Little Run because of him, Silas Little. And when his entire property with the house and this 11 acres here was purchased for the sewage treatment plant. Well, it turned out that they didn't need to build a sewage treatment plant because they were able to gain sewage treatment from Mount Laurel Township, from Mount Holly. So they have it in, so that freed up this piece of land. But another thing happened at the same time, or a discovery, and that was when they did a deed search for this property. They discovered there was a deed restriction on it. Not on this property, but on the property across the road, the large part where the Laurel Creek development is. There was a deed restriction that if that land was rezoned from industrial to residential, that it could only be very, very low density residential. And also that deed restriction was held by the New Jersey Conservation Foundation. In the process of the force of negotiating with the New Jersey Conservation Foundation, they ended up with two benefits, I think, for Moorestown, and that was that even if there were a sewage treatment plant here, it would be built as close to the landfill as possible and provide access, even if it was a wide path, down to the creek. But since the sewage treatment plant failed, the entire property became public open space. So under our first township manager, Al Harding, this arrangement had been made to put a deed restriction, and New Jersey Conservation Foundation negotiated that the development would also be 50% open space, which is what the golf course is. So it ended up kind of a win-win situation for the township. We now have this pretty travel through the beautiful beech woods to the creek, and the land is now preserved for everybody to enjoy. This bench is dedicated to Esther Yanai, one of STEM's founders, and Esther was very much of an environmentalist, so this is an environmental bench in that it is recycled plastic boards and a reused park bench base. Now in Susan Stevens Halby Preserve, it's a 17-acre tract that had once been envisioned as a building site for houses. We're directly adjacent to Laurel Creek, and this pond that you see behind me is actually drains out of and is part of Little Run. And we are on the opposite side of Creek Road from Little Woods on the Rancocas. There is a trail directly across that connects up to the trail in Little Woods.
Boundary Creek Park is part of the Burlington County Park System. It is part of a greenway project to connect creeks and waterways in the county. The land was acquired in 2002 and the park was dedicated in 2008. It is 36 acres of tidal marsh, wetlands, fields, and wooded areas. You are looking at a nest box for martins. This structure was installed in Boundary Creek last year as an Eagle Scout project.
This site was once farmed by the Moriuchi family. It was a peach orchard. Wonderful soil for peaches, wonderful soil for houses, and now we're very fortunate to have it as an open space.
On my right, you can see Boundary Creek, which forms the western boundary of the park as it flows into the Rancocas Creek. This is an area where we have sighted beavers. The beaver family can be viewed either early in the morning or later in the evening. This site is also where an early ferry was established. The Hollingshead Ferry formed one of the first transportation routes across the river in the early 1680s.
Esther Yanai was created by a township purchase, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
And it's 32 acres of basically uncut woods, and with a unique piece of wooded area on the back part, about 10 acres of beech trees that are, many of which are huge, and probably 50 to 100 years old. The property is bounded by Garwood, by Swedes Run Creek, and the Evergreens property on the backside, which is a field where the farm, they used to farm. On this side, it's a variable 2 or 3 people own property here on this side, so it's kind of not a straight line and not well defined once you get in the woods. It's hard to tell whether you're in this property or not. But it's a beautiful circular walk that we've created, and the loop trail will probably take you 30 to 35 minutes to walk when the conditions are correct. You want to basically avoid it when it's wet and foggy, but the summer is gorgeous. Many flowers in the spring that you can admire. The central part of the woods. Swedes Run Creek runs all the way up and then underneath Westfield, and it starts back up in the
Middle of Moorestown.
middle of Moorestown, yeah, right at Stanwick Road. And this is the largest goose hatchery in all of Moorestown. There's probably 25 to 30 nests set along this creek every year from Garwood here to between Garwood and Stanwick along the creek and in the swamp that's in the middle of the area. So it's a very peaceful and beautiful natural habitat.
This is Sweet Run Fields, the largest open space in Moorestown. It's 130 acres, bisected by Westfield Road and crossed by Swede Run. Swede Run, the headwaters of Swede Run is in the center of Moorestown, and it runs all the way out to the Delaware River. And we now have a path all the way around it. This is a farmed field. So soybeans are grown here. But we have a trail that goes all the way around the open space. It's 2 miles in total. On this map, you can see the curve of the creek, and you can also see a pond that's in Stanwick Glen, and actually you can access this field from Stanwick Glen by this Ravicchio Pond.
We have right here the jewel of Waterworks Woods. This is but one example of it. A beautiful beech tree, significant because there are a number of tulip trees, oak, maple, a tremendous variety of mature trees for the most part. That's not exceptional to be looking straight up and seeing the top of the tree at about 80 feet high. We have beyond that the real jewel, the diamond, and that's Waterworks Woods Proud Lake. Right off Kings Highway. To my rear, opposite that, is Nixon Drive going out the other way. There are 20 acres in all, remember. Boating is allowed, no motorboats, however. Canoeists love it, as do kayakers and the like. We're illustrating what can happen over a good number of years. This area, the swimming pool itself, was built one long time ago, very close to perhaps 100 years. That's going to have to be researched further. In the meantime, you also spot in this area some remnants of outdoor barbecue pits, fireplaces with chimneys even, that were very popular in the time. So this was basically the picnic grove with the swimming area behind. No one swims there anymore. We know better now. But there is your air movement and there's water movement along with it. The body of water is maintained a degree of health over the years sufficient for, as it does, give some beauty.
Hello, my name is Debbie Lord, and I'm going to talk to you a minute about the Pompeston Creek. And I have two friends with me, Ross and Hannah, and they're going to help me. The Pompeston Park is an 83-acre hidden jewel in Moorestown. It's between Baker School and North Riding Drive. Can you see that? I don't know if this part is going to work.
You can mention that it's the wooded
It's
area.
a wooded park. This is an aerial photo. You can see woods. And then this is hold on. This is a picture, this is a trail map of the park. And you can see that it starts down here at Baker School and goes all along the stream up to the 12-acre easement. Okay. So, it's about 83 acres plus the 12-acre conservation easement. It's mostly forested wetland that runs along the Pompeston Creek. Pompeston Creek begins in Moorestown and flows through Cinnaminson, a little bit of Delran and Riverton to the Delaware River. This park serves as a very important wildlife corridor in a densely populated part of town. And if you spend time in the creek or around the creek, you'll see many different types of fish. Can you look at the fish that Hannah has? I think these are both pumpkin seed sunnies, but are they? They have that round spot.
That's what I always think.
They're sunfish. Not sure what kind. Maybe pumpkin seed, maybe not. I've also found a lot of female American eels in the creek when I've been sampling before. So we also find all kinds of
Oh, I have it.
macroinvertebrates, or some of them are insect larvae that live in the stream. This is a larva of a damselfly, which is the cousin of the dragonfly. He stays in his larval stage for probably a year. Dragonflies are often 2 years. Do you have that? Mm-hmm. Okay. We also found, while we were netting around today, we found a lunged snail. Never found a gilled snail here because the water's not clean enough, but we do find a lot of lunged snails. So there's lots and lots and lots of critters that spend a significant portion of their lives or all their lives in the stream. This park is also known as one of the best birding spots in town. Whenever there's a bird count, the birders come here. We have all different, 4 or 5 different species of woodpecker. We have numerous species of hawks, owls, great horned owls, screech owls, barred owl, which is a threatened species. I've seen wood turtles here, which are threatened in New Jersey, box turtles, snapping turtles, musk turtles. We have northern two-lined salamanders, red-backed salamanders, and numerous types of frogs, including spring peepers, which sound like that. And my friends Hannah and Ross were both in a vernal pool right down the way last week, and we were looking and listening at spring peepers. Lots of snakes, foxes, tons of deer, raccoon, and quite a few other things. Jack Cresson, an archaeologist who lives in town, has also found a number of Lenape artifacts and older Lenape artifacts, and maybe some older ones in in and along this stream corridor. The park can be accessed at the following places: Baker School, the intersection of Iron Post and West Walnut, the end of Fernwood Drive off of New Albany, Georgian Drive, Oriole Way, Walnut Avenue, Lorraine Avenue, Stanley Avenue, and Perry Avenue. At the end of all those streets. There are also no motorized vehicles allowed on the trails in this park. And the last thing I want to say about it is that the water in the creek is not as clean as it should be or as it could be, and that's something that each and every one of us can do our parts in picking up after our dogs and picking up litter and not fertilizing unless it's absolutely necessary.
It's always nice to come out in the woods in the spring and see these spring beauties as they come out. They're so pretty, and they just carpet a lot of our wetlands here in Moorestown. Soon we'll be looking for trout lilies. I used to call them dogtooth violets, but they're very pretty, and they'll be coming out soon too.
Okay, we wanted to mention a little bit about how South Valley Woods came to be part of New Jersey Natural Lands Trust. At one time it was subdivided. You can't really see too well on this map, but there's lots of little plots and roads that were lined up, but it wasn't ever really buildable or accessible. So over the years, people donated their lots to the Lands Trust. Some neighbors purchased lots that were in tax default, I think that's the right word, and donated them to the Lands Trust. So over the years, it's almost a continuous property. There are, I understand, still a stray lot here or there that's under private ownership, but it doesn't really affect our use of the woods. I also wanted to mention some of the wildlife that's back here. Deer, of course, turkeys I've seen, and once or twice I've seen a fox at night in the parking lot, and I've never seen one while I've been walking in the woods, but I know there must be some back here. And the usual raccoons, possums. I'm not as much of a bird person, but I'm pretty sure there's an owl back here. I hear him sometimes. And of course hawks, a couple different kinds.